Hello everybody, I'm Sam15 the Dragon Team here today, and welcome to yet another deck profile and interview with Steven Singer, who managed to make top 16 at this past United States Nationals. So welcome,
Hello.
Steven. And Steven also did an interview with us when he did well at this past states as well. So I think you actually did so with the same. Yeah, you did so with Trevin
Yes,
as
I
well,
did.
didn't you?
With Trevenant, slightly different list for nationals, but overall, just really the same core.
Yeah, N's a thing now. Yeah, N was not a thing during
Right.
states, correct? I thought as much. So yeah, pretty sure I know the answer, but why did you decide to play Trevin at this year's
Well,
Nationals?
going up to nationals, I had been I had been testing a couple of different decks, and just didn't really seem to get a whole lot of consistent hands with any of them. So I figured,
Mm-hmm.
when if I'm not getting any valuable results from testing, and there's going to be over 1,000 players, I might as well just stick with something that I know well, which is Trevenant.
Yeah, you like what? You did like two top fours and like
It
a
was
win, right?
two
Or something
seconds
like
and a
that.
third.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Not close enough. I'm just looking a little backwards, but still, you did really good at states. And it's like, if it's not broken, don't fix it,
Right.
which is pretty good. Okay, like you pretty much like up to nationals, you pretty much got all your championship points based off of the back of states,
Right. I mean, up
correct?
to nationals. Even though I did have my world's invite, most of it came from states. A little
Yeah.
bit of it did come from cities.
Yeah. I think you like got what, like 250
Yeah.
championship points from states alone, which is pretty incredible. So, all right, we'll talk about your states. Not your states, but well, if anyone's curious about the states run, the links to that video should be in the description below. But back to nationals, you decided to play Trevenant. Walk us through your day. Well, walk us through your day one. What did you face against in
Round
round
one,
one?
I went up against a metal deck. Um, that round ended up in a tie. Game one, he um, did get the Fates Collide Bronzong out, um, but there was no
Nice.
floatstone on it. So even though it still took 3 turns out of it. Once I got that one out of the way, then it was for the most part just smooth sailing from there. He just couldn't really get anything going without access to any max elixir, and couldn't get any of the Metal Link's
Mm-hmm.
Bronzong set up. So he was very short
Yeah.
on energy for a lot of the game. Game
Yeah.
two was a lot more in his favor. Um, he was able to get a floatstone on a Bronzor before I got the Trevenant set up, and so
Mm-hmm.
that was the one he evolved into the Metal Fortress Bronzong. And I didn't take
Mm-hmm.
long enough to look through my deck and see what my prizes were. I ended up finding out that my Zerosic was prized, and scooped the
Yeah.
game a bit too late to have much time left. So
Ah.
I without the Zerosic, I'm pretty much just stuck, only damaging one Pokemon, and
Yeah.
Lysandering up
Concede.
a Floatstone Bronzong isn't going to do any good. So I conceded that one a little too late,
No.
which was very unfortunate because we got about I think 3 turns into game three, and I was pretty well set in that game. Unfortunately, that ended up in a tie.
Yeah. That like people say, oh, you should play the Fates Collide Bronzong. Like, well, you have to get a floatstone on, and like getting a floatstone on the Fates Collide Bronzong is really hard to do. Like, I think I tested like as someone placement, I think it tested like one out of like every 5 or 6 games. So I just went for consistency
Yeah,
as someone who's
I
plays
just
metal, because otherwise
yeah,
it's favorable for
just
you.
depends on who goes first, and since since I won
It
the
does
coin flip, I
depend.
went first game one.
Yeah. Like the real way for Metal to beat that deck is actually if you like power up like a Genesect or a Aegis and just go in, just constantly just apply
Yeah.
pressure to them.
But even then, there still
Which,
has to, like, the
but
Fates Collide Bronzong helps if they're able to bring something active that isn't going to attack.
all right. So you're starting off already with a tie. I'm guessing you already feel a little apprehensive about the day from
Not
here on, right?
necessarily. I knew going into nationals that metal was going to be one of my tougher matchups. Um, so to come out
Yeah.
of that with a tie, I thought was still going to put me in a really good position.
Hmm. So, you, so wait, didn't you get like a round one bye for
Uh,
doing well at states,
no,
or
I
was that only
you
if you won?
only got to buy at states for winning. Yeah,
Oh, okay,
that's all right.
my bad. But anyway, round
Round
two.
two, I
How
went
did
up
that go?
against Greninja and won that one pretty handily. Um, Again, I won
Hmm.
the coin flip and went first. Got the turn one Trevenant. Um, and because Greninja just relies so much on items to get set up, there just really wasn't anything my opponent could do. And game
Mm-hmm.
two, um, even though I went second, I still had a pretty easy time getting set up. I mean, he did get the turn two water duplicates to get 3 Frogadiers out, but um, it was just another game that ended very quickly. I'm not quite sure why my opponent decided to do this, but at one point during that game, he swung into a bursting balloon Trevenant with a Greninja to put it at 120
Mm-hmm.
damage with the rest of the Frogadiers on the bench at 60 damage. So the very next turn, I just one Silent Fear took 4 prizes and put me down to just 1 prize left. Um, not sure, not sure if he just felt there was no chance to win and just decided to get it over with that point, or what my opponent was thinking. But that was just a very easy matchup.
Yeah. Mm. So you won that game. So you're 101 on going to round three. What do you face in round
Round
three?
three, I went up against a Mega Manectric Raikou Articuno deck. Uh,
Ooh, that does not sound like a favorable
it really
matchup for you.
doesn't. And the rough seas makes it kind of tough, and then um, just removing the damage off of the Trevenant. But one of the things that I think really went in my favor in that matchup is that he didn't really have any ways to one-shot a Trevenant. No matter what he attacked with, he was
Mm.
almost always going to have to two-shot a Trevenant. So that still leaves me enough time to lock something active that doesn't really attack very well, and just spread damage out uh, after bumping the rough seas. So
Okay.
that was a matchup that I won in 2 games. Um, although I was kind of worried for a second when he sent up an Articuno to attack, played a Hex Maniac and attached a Muscle Band. Um, 3 heads flips
Ooh.
would have knocked out my Trevenant in one shot,
Yeah.
and
This is
yeah,
scary.
and it was my only Trevenant out. Um, he flips 2 heads, and then the third ended up being tails. Uh, yeah,
Oh, that was a bit nerve wracking because all
yeah,
that.
it was very nerve-wracking. Um, but since the Trevenant survived, I was able to next turn get the knockout on the Articuno and take that threat away of it taking an extra prize off
Yeah.
of the Trevenant.
All right. Right. So round
Um,
four. How did
Round
that go?
four, I went up against Darkrai Giratina.
Hmm.
Um,
That sounds like
it
an
is
interesting matchup.
from when I had been testing it before nationals, it just seemed like one that I just wasn't really going to be able to beat very easily. Um, just
Yeah.
hitting for weakness allows it to just one shot Trevenants. Um, Luckily, I won the flip again. Hadn't lost a single flip at least up to that point um, that I recall. So I got the turn one item lock. Even ended up getting a Headringer on a Darkrai and then Lysandering a Hoopa active. So
Nice.
that just really left my opponent without many options to try and get out of that and start running through. So I won game one. Game two, he ended up going first. I lost that one. He just got set
Mm.
up too quick. Um, and then game three went pretty much the same way as game one did. Just start first, get a turn one Trevenant, Lysander a Hoopa active, and then Headringer a Darkrai. And there's just not really much you can do without the max elixirs. Having to attach twice to the Hoopa, and then having to attach 3 times to the Darkrai.
Yeah, that's just so. So you're 3-1 round 5. How do you feel and what do you play there?
Well, at that point, I'm feeling really good. That despite the tie, I'm still in a very good position to make day two, just by winning 3 more
Yeah,
rounds. Yeah,
there's 3 more games. It's
yeah.
easier said than done.
Um, Fortunately, round five, I ended up going up against Night March the first time that day. And Night March is just
Oh,
one of the, you know, one of the matchups that is really heavily in Trevenant's favor. Um, I
it is, but if they can get a couple night marches in their hand and just take them more than away a couple times,
Yeah,
it
it
starts getting
does.
scary.
Um, but there's just a lot of times there's just really nothing that they can do when they're staring down a turn one Trevenant or going going first, looking at a Wobbuffet active. Um, and so that was round five was another win, fairly easy win for me.
Nice, nice. Round
Round
6.
six, I went up against a Vespiquen Evolution stack. Um,
That
it
sounds
is
very
very interesting,
interesting.
um, but I'd very similar to the Night March matchup. They rely so much on items that staring down a turn one Trevenant is tough to overcome, especially with most of their deck being stage ones and low HP Pokemon. That it's just a really easy win once they've got once I've got a Trevenant break set up uh, to spread damage out.
No. So
Yes.
you won that one, correct? All right, sorry. Uh, Something's going on in the background here, but I'm probably gonna edit that out. But whatever. So round 7. How did you go
Round
there? What did you
seven,
do
I
there?
went up against another metal deck, um, and
So,
that one I ended up losing that one. He just had the uh, metal Fortress
oh,
Bronzong out, so I just really couldn't do anything. Um, couldn't take any knockouts at all, and he just ran right through me.
all right, fair enough. So, so you're uh, so you're going to round 8 being X1-1. So you basically have to win. Well, you can take a tie, but for the most part, you can't lose that. You cannot lose a single match from here. How
I
do you
still
feel?
feel really comfortable. As I was playing on in the later rounds, I had noticed there was still plenty of Night March doing well, at least in my flight. So I just
Uh,
felt that I still had a great chance of getting of not hitting a bad matchup and being able to at least win and tie one in order to make day two.
all right. So, what did you play in
Round
round 8?
eight, I played against Night March. Yeah.
That's exactly
Yep.
what you wanted to play too.
And that one I just uh, won the opening flip, went first, got the turn one Trevenant, and just really steamrolled through game one. I can't remember exactly if I had won that one in 2 games or 3 games, um,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as I can really recall, when I went first, I don't remember really missing a turn one Trevenant at all against Night March.
Wow. So, I, you won. You game one. You won game one. How did you do in
Um,
game two? Did
I
you win
can't
or
remember
just
that.
2-0 them?
I can't remember that too well. If I 2-0'd them or if I won that one in 3 games. Um, yeah.
Oh, you just said that.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
I
you
still
still
won
won
that
that
round.
round.
Um, looking at 6-1-1 going into round 9. So I'm looking
Yeah.
and looking at the rest of the pairings from the flight. It looks like at that point I should be able to get into day 2 if I
mm,
just simply ID my next round. Um, and I even got
Right.
paired up, which had me thinking I should be able to ID a next round, but my opponent refused. Um, Fortunately, they were playing Night March, which
What was your opponent's record out
at
of
that
curiosity,
point
or
my
do you not
opponent
know?
was 602.
Oh, okay. Uh, Well, if your opponent was 602, then if you tied, he would have been 603, which is essentially 7-2. So, I think the reason why he wanted to do that is like he probably felt like he wanted to be 702 or like give himself a better shot at going into day 2, which to be completely totally fair, if he did that, you would set him at a better shot, and like he had nothing to lose. If he lost, he was still in day 2
Right.
regardless at that
It
point.
actually ended up, being a guarantee that whether he won that any result of that round would have gotten him into
hmm
day 2 the because 32nd place in that flight was 621.
You won that game, and now you're 7-1-1. How do you feel being 7-1 going into United States
Um,
Nationals
I
Day
feel
2?
really good. Looking at all the standings at that point, it looks like if I can win 4 rounds, um,
Yeah.
then I would have a chance at top 8.
Yeah. From what I was hearing, a lot of people who were 7-1 said that you had to basically go 4-1-1 going if you wanted to make top 8, which it's pretty much like a cities, but like it's a lot tougher than a cities in a lot of ways simply because like how many good
Yeah.
players are there at that point. So you're 4-1, not 4-1-1, but you're 7-1-1. What did you play in round one of
Um,
day 2?
Day 2, round 1, I ended up going up against Water Toolbox. Ended up playing against Paul
Okay.
Johnston, who made top 4, and
Ah.
that ended really poorly. Um, there really wasn't a whole lot that I could do once when he had the rough seas out, other than just try and draw into my counter stadiums. Um, I
Yeah.
even going into that matchup, I knew that um, the best way to try and win that one was to try and get a Trevenant set up and start attacking before any stadium comes into play. Try and make him play rough seas first to try and win that stadium war. But unfortunately, um, my my choices were to just play the Dimension Valley or Sycamore it away anyway. Um, so I ended
Uh,
up not winning the stadium war. Game 2, I came really close to pushing it to a tie. Um,
wow.
I had 2 Wobbuffets out. He was about to take a knockout on one with a Seismitoad. The Seismitoad had 120 damage on it, and I had 2 prizes left.
Whew.
I just needed to draw into the one psychic energy left into my deck to be able to knock out the Seismitoad. But unfortunately, he
Yeah.
top decked the Rough Seas to knock out my last Dimension Valley. Yeah,
Aww. That's
yeah,
unfortunate. So he 2-0'd you. You're starting off the day already with a loss, which that has to kind of stink a little bit. But what did you face in round 2 of
Round
day
2,
2?
I went up against a Zygarde Vileplume deck.
Mm.
Um,
How did that go for
that
you?
went that went pretty well for me. It I didn't I don't think I really got the turn one Trevenant when I went first. Um, but at the same time, it uh, doesn't really seem like it had that much of an effect because in that matchup, all I really needed to do was just Lysander the Vileplume active that he wasn't able to get a Floatstone on, and he's just stuck there with a Vileplume active he's unable to while he's unable to attack.
Right. So you won
Yes,
that
I
match
won
then?
that one in 2 games.
Okay. Uh, pretty nice, pretty nice. Game three, not game three, but round three.
Round
How did that go?
three, I went up against another Darkrai Giratina deck. Um, played against
Ugh.
another bad matchup. Played against, if I recall correctly, I played against Liam Williams, who also made top four. Um, that one also did not go well for me. I lost that one in 2 games pretty quick. Um, I just didn't really have an opportunity to get set up at all. Um, he was able to keep clearing my Trevenants off the board. Never dropped a Hoopa or anything that I could Lysander active and just stall uh, while I get set up.
So yeah, you lost there. So you would have been 8-3-1 at
Yes,
this point. Um, I think at this point you pretty much had a win out, correct? If you wanted to make
right.
top
At that
16,
point, I knew I had to.
not top
Yeah, I knew I
16,
had
but
to
top eight.
win the next 3 rounds at that point to have a chance at making top eight.
Yeah. So how did round four
Round
go?
four of day two, I went up against Night March. Ended up playing that match on stream.
Ah, was this your first match
Yes,
on stream?
that was my
Uh,
first
wow,
stream match at nationals. Um, I actually had
wow.
to actually started that one really late because I had to resleeve for that match. Um, and
Wow.
it was a pretty close series. Um, Game one, although I did go first and get the turn one Trevenant, um, I actually ended up losing that game. I did get the head ringer on the Shaman when he was about to try to Shaman loop, but he was able to get enough energy to Sky Return and knock off my head ringer. Uh, and that was really late in the game, so I had to scoop that one to try and save some time for games two and three to make sure I could win that match. Uh, Game two went pretty quick. Going first, I got the turn one Trevenant. He just didn't have.
Mm,
He just had a completely dead hand, and I won that game pretty easily. Um,
mm.
and as I was as I went back to look at the match later, going into game three, there was actually about 15 minutes left for game three. Um,
It's a
yeah.
pretty solid amount of time.
Um, Game three, I ended up starting with Wobbuffet. Um, and my opponent's hand was just really dead. All he could really do was Ultra Ball for a Shaman, um, and then pass. He didn't have a draw supporter in hand, um, and
Wow.
then going into my turn, I had a Phantom and an Energy in hand ready to Ascension, um, and hit a Floatstone off of the Trainer's Mail in order to be able to retreat the Wobbuffet.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you got your
yep,
turn one ascension
got the
off.
turn one Ascension. So at that point, at that point, it's item. It's a choice between either item locking or ability locking. Um,
Yeah.
and with the setup that I had, even going second, um, and his dead hand, it was a game that really was never out of my control. At that point, it was mostly just a race against the clock to try to take all 6 prizes before time ran out. Um,
Right.
he also he also had prized 2 shamans, so he could never get a shaman loop going.
Ooh.
Um,
Ooh.
so I was able to eventually win that, taking all 6 prizes with about 20 seconds left in the round.
Oh,
Yeah,
that must have felt good. So, you won that one.
Night
What was your
March.
opponent playing again?
Yeah,
Oh, Night
sorry, I think I
March.
might have
Okay.
forgot to say that.
So, now that you're good. So, last 2 rounds, round 5 and 6. How do
I
you
feel
feel?
pretty good. I At that point, I'm just thinking if I can avoid another dark or another water, I'd have a very good
Yeah.
chance at making top 8.
Nice, nice. So, what did you play in this next round? What did you play in
Um,
round 5?
in round 5 of day 2, I played against another Night March deck. Um, yeah,
That's
it
good to
was
see, I bet.
just pretty straightforward. Went about how all of my other Night March matchups went all day. Um, when I got the turn 1 item lock, it just ended up being too much, and
Uh,
I just he just never really had anything that he could do to win. So I won that round pretty easily.
Nice, nice. Round 6, the final round, the winning end. You must be feeling a little some goosebumps
Yeah,
here.
I'm just at that point. I'm just hoping to maybe get a decent matchup to try and win and make it into top 8. But
Mm-hmm.
at that point, I'm also just mainly hoping uh to not lose the round. Um, because I want to at least try to walk away from that with a top 16.
Fair enough. So, how did
Uh,
round 6 go for you?
Round 6, I ended up playing against Toadbats. Uh,
That's interesting. I didn't think I would see or hear someone playing Tobeds that deep into the
yeah,
tournament.
it surprised me too. I ended up winning the coin flip and going first again, and he had me a little nervous when he flipped over a Seismitoad. I thought I was facing another water toolbox. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think I got the turn 1 Trevenant in that round, but I did end up starting with a Wobbuffet. Um, yeah.
What was this guy?
Um, I ended up winning game 1. I felt that it took a long time. Um, so at that point, I'm hoping if I don't win, I'm hoping to either win game 2 or try to or that it hopefully ends up incomplete. Um, Unfortunately, late in game 2, he's able to get a Toad powered up to Grenade Hammer and just quickly knock out my Trevenants,
Aw.
and and take game 2. Uh, and then time was called while we were in the middle of setting up game 3.
Ah. So, do you guys try to have a gentleman? Well, this was like you guys were in the middle of
Right,
setting
we were in the
up
middle
game
of setting
3,
up
right?
game 3, and
So, so you guys couldn't even do
well,
the gentleman's agreement.
interestingly
Or do you guys
enough,
even do that?
um, before the round had started, the match next to us had been discussing that sort of gentleman's agreement right in front of a judge.
Yeah.
Um, and they ended up having multiple judges come over there and talk to them about it. Saying telling them why they shouldn't be discussing having any sort of a gentleman's agreement. Um, so,
Why? What
well,
they're saying?
you're not supposed to ask your opponent if you're not supposed to ask the opponent if they want to agree to having the winner of a game 3 decided on prizes if the round goes to a tie, because it's considered asking your opponent to concede.
I thought technically asking your opponent to concede was legal for a while, as long
You
as
can
you only
ask
did
your
it
opponent
once.
to you can ask your opponent to tie. You just can't ask to concede.
Apparently they changed the rules of that because, like, I remember a couple of years ago that was a little
I,
different, but that's kind of dumb. I always find that kind of dumb, like when judges like try to harp on people about the gentleman's agreement. I mean, I understand why, so like people don't get confused, but if you're this deep in a tournament of a Masters division, odds are you know what the gentleman's agreement
right.
is.
But well, I guess unfortunately for them, the judges didn't necessarily see it that way. I don't know if any sort of penalties had come out of that. I do know they ended up starting the round extremely late, and getting a time extension.
Yeah.
But that's all I really know about the situation from that match. Um, but once time was called, after seeing that go on right there next to me, I didn't really feel like risking any sort of agreement trying to decide a winner, and possibly
Yeah.
having some sort of penalty that would just uh, that could disqualify me from the tournament. I felt after the tie would rather at least just take the guaranteed top 16.
Which is fair enough because like I think it was if you're my I think it was if in your position I think I would have I would have done either one of two things. One, I probably would have just done a coin flip, or two, I think I would just took the tie because at that point, like, there's no real way for us to
Right.
decide a winner, and you know, we kind of just doing on a coin flip would just be weird, and I think I would have conceded my point need if my opponent needed the points, if my opponent needs top 8 or something like that to get their invite, but other than that, I
Right.
think I would just took the tie, but whatever. It is what it is, but still, top 16 is still really good.
Yeah, it's certainly a lot better than what I had initially expected going into nationals.
What did you initially expect? Just to go
Yeah,
3 and drop or
I just
something?
even though I was playing what I felt the most comfortable with, I just wasn't so sure that I would have enough of the early matchups in my favor to keep going through,
uh,
and it certainly did appear that way early on. Uh, I'm still surprised I managed to get through a lot of those early matchups against Metal and Manectric and Darkrai, to make it to day two.
uh, and not to mention, you took a round 1 tie, which is pretty incredible. You like people who usually take like anything that's not a round 1 win usually don't end up doing that well. But you took a round 1 tie, went pretty much you went the
Yeah,
distance.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. So congratulations on getting top 16. So let's go over your deck list a little bit. I noticed you're playing just a one of Battle Compressor.
Uh,
Why just the one? Why
well,
play
I
it
do
at
like
all?
playing the one battle compressor. It helps if I have a VS Seeker in my hand to get the turn one Wally. Also helps to get the
Alright.
Wally out of the deck so that I don't draw into them late game, or to get rid of things like or not battle compressor, like Dimension Valley, um, against
Yeah.
whenever I can't play items against the mirror or against Night
Mirror.
March. And it also lets me
Yeah.
access the supporters that I might only have one of in the deck, like Zerosic, or if I prize a Lysander. Um, Helps me get those into
Mm.
the discard pile so that way I have easier access to them when I have a VS Seeker in hand.
Uh, Another odd card I see is just a one of a Headringer. Why
Um,
just the one of?
the the
Why
one of
play it?
Headringer is mainly to try and stop the Shaman loop. Um, that's that's a strategy that if they get that um, during states it was stopped well enough just by playing a judge, um,
Mm-hmm.
but during nationals it wasn't stopped as easily by N. If they couldn't take enough prizes before starting the Shaman loop. Um, or if they had a, or if they just had a really thin deck like Night March naturally tends to have. Um, so the Headringer
Mm-hmm.
just helps stop that. It makes them take 2 turns to attach to a shaman, which is just the amount of turns you need to knock a shaman out. Um, it also it also allows me to Zerosic the double colorless off of the shaman if they try to attach to that one, um, and just get rid of an energy.
Cool, cool. So I should have asked this before first, but were there any changes to the deck that you wish you made or hadn't made going into nationals, or anything that you, looking back on nationals, you went, yeah, maybe we should have added that instead?
Um, Looking back, I don't really think I would change anything about the list. Um, I did consider an Absol initially at first, um, but I just didn't. With testing, I just didn't feel it had helped enough to make that much of a difference. Um, and I did consider AZ to maybe clear a shaman off the board, but I don't think that having shamans on the field really ever hurt me that much at all. Um, so I don't really think there's any changes I would necessarily make to the list.
Okay, fair enough. So in terms of championships, we already kind of discussed this earlier, but how many championship points do you have going into nationals, and how many championship points do you have now?
Going into nationals, I had 352 championship points, and
Mm-hmm.
now I'm at 452.
That's
Yeah.
that's still pretty good. Um, you probably, yeah, that's nowhere
No,
near top 16 though.
it made that round that final round tie hurt just a little bit more. Especially now knowing
Yeah.
that if I had managed to make top 4 at nationals, I would have finished in the top 16 with 652.
Ah, that probably does have to suck. Actually, so you 452, five, yeah, 652 would have been able to get you top 16. So yeah, that does suck. So, but before we sign off, any shout outs you want to give to anyone before we say it's a close to
Um,
the day?
Shout out to all the people I played at nationals, especially Paul. He was a really fun guy to play against. And it was really good, seeing him go on to top 4 and finish his top 16 for Worlds. Um,
Yeah.
shout out to shout out to all the guys that I played with in Texas throughout the year, um, at the Texas Marathon. Um, you know, and shout out to the guys I drove up with from Oklahoma, Austin Baggs and Nick Francis. Um, they're really fun guys to drive with and room with. And shout out to the rest of my roommates at Nats, Aaron Wang, Chris Jester. It was helped really make
Chris,
a for a really fun birthday weekend.
hey, it was your birthday on
Saturday
Friday,
during
was it not?
daytime.
Or Saturday. Saturday. So that was like your, I guess, a mini birthday gift
Yeah,
doing pretty well. So happy late birthday to you. I think I never actually was able to
that's all
say that. I
right.
apologize for that. So happy late birthday to you. And thank you for sharing us your list and
You're
doing this
welcome.
interview with us. And thank you for anyone who tuned in today. Please like, subscribe, all that silly stuff. If you managed to make top 64 U.S. Nationals, please consider doing an interview with me. I still have a couple of interviews I want to do. And yeah, please do all that fun stuff. And I shall see you guys, hopefully, next time.